Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
Welcome to the special edition of Dynasty Debate. Just me, and we're going to be talking about our Double D's Dynasty sells and the running back edition. So we're going to be looking at running backs and guys that I think that you should be trying to sell right now. And we're going to be looking at real-life trades that have happened. Shout out to DLF. Really, you should subscribe to that. I use a couple of theirs, a couple from my own leagues. We're going to be looking at basically their stats, what they did, everything in there. So I just wanted to give you guys some options of what you could be doing right now in your Dynasty leagues. You're trying to make some moves. And some of these might be controversial, right? So when we're talking about Dynasty sells, some of these guys are little high-end running backs, but it's such a volatile position. You never know how fast these values switch. Look at Todd Gurley. He went from being 101 in most Dynasty draft leagues, and now, 2-3 years later, he's done. Okay, and so these things are very fluid. You got to be ahead of the curve on Dynasty running backs because they're not the shelf life that you see with wide receivers. There's in quarterbacks in that. So, running backs, okay, find them. So we're going to go through 5. So I've gotten 5 kind of done. And our first one that we're going to be basically looking at and covering is Alvin Kamara. I know this might be a little controversial for some people, but, I think it's time to, if you're not definitely going to compete next year, it's definitely time to move him. And when we look at what he did last year and when we're talking about kind of where he went, again, 2020 stats, rushing, 187 attempts, 932 yards. You guys can read the screen. Receiving stats, 83 receptions, 107 targets. He's a PPR dream, okay? This is what we're talking about with Alvin Kamara. In 2020 fantasy ranking, he's ranked number 1. Points per game, average 25, and he was dominant. But the thing that worries me is what he looked like without Breeze. If Taysom Hill is going to be there, what is he going to be? If Jameis Winston is going to be there, what is he going to be? So I think there's a lot of unknowns right now with Kamara. There's guys that I just don't necessarily want to have on my roster anymore because of the unknowns, and Kamara might be that guy for you. If you don't want to trade him, I understand. I want to give you guys some recent trades that happened with him. So, I'm not a CEH guy. So this trade might not work for some, but here's CH, who is still on a great offense and is still, just his second year. He's shown some flashes. A 2021 round 1 pick, which turned out to be the 105 for Kamara. I think this is a little light for Kamara, but I don't hate it, right? So when we're talking about value, it all depends on the leagues you're in and so forth. But you know what? This isn't a terrible value. So CEH plus the 5th. If this is a single quarterback, a little bit less, but if this is a super flex, I really like that deal. So there's a kind of a middle lower tier value. Probably you would want more, but that's an option. This happened recently. You have, and I love this next deal: DJ Chark, CD Lamb, and a 2022 first for Kamara. Absolutely crushing that. I love it. I love Chark's upside with Lawrence probably going to be there. CD could be the rookie wide receiver 1 that we all want instead of Justin Jefferson from last year, right? Not obviously rookie this year, but I love CD. I think with Dak back, he'll be that guy that everybody's kind of sleeping on a little bit. And you get a first for Kamara. Absolutely love it. I love rebuilding my teams through wide receivers. I think one thing, if you definitely have a big rebuild, build it through young wide receivers first, and then grab those running backs later when you're ready to compete. 2021 first is great for that. 2023 third would be even better. That class is loaded at the running back position. Next one here is Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson in a 206 in a Superflex league for Kamara. Hey, I love Cam. I think Cam could be definitely trending upwards, especially in that offense. Darrell's just a throw into me. I'm not really worried about Darrell in that case. A 6th pick in the second round, you could get a young wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Diami Brown. You could get Elijah Moore. You could get maybe if somebody falls. Okay, I've seen Devonta Smith fall in that area. I don't know if that's going to happen in regular leagues, but in some higher competitive leagues, I've seen Smith. We did a recent mock. He fell in the second. So I think that 6th option gives you some options there. These are all deals that I'm okay with for Kamara. Maybe not the first one, but these other 2, absolutely, I think you accept it if you are rebuilding. But even if the Cam Akers one, I actually think that's pretty good value, and you're getting for Kamara. If that was a first, I would love it, right? Second, I understand it. So Kamara for me is the first guy that I would definitely look. Maybe, hey, let's see what I can get out there. What's my value for him? Just because of the unknowns of that quarterback position, and what is he going to be? Can he be a true running back 1? My next guy is Josh Jacobs. I know this could be a bad time trying to sell him because of all the uncertainty with his DUI, all his other off-the-field stuff. But he's still, hey, when we look at what he did last year, he 2020 rushing stats, 1,100 yards, just over that, 12 touchdowns. Receiving stats, okay, again, didn't have the greatest targets yet, I think he did okay. So when we're looking at his receiving, what he did, as fantasy ranking, he ranked number 9, points 210, average 15. He still finishes number 9 in PPR formats, but he had just a bad year. When we look at him, what he did, there were some games where he blew up. There's some games that he didn't, right? First game of the year, everybody was loving it. After that, up and down. Very inconsistent. Okay, we're looking at an inconsistent running back here. And he might be the guy that you decide, hey, it's time to kind of ship him. Now, I will be honest, his value is not great, but there are always guys out there that are willing to take risk on this. And what is he going to be following this year? And the running back position is very volatile, like we talked about. Here's some deals for him. So DJ Chark, who seems to be a very big option right now, and Joe Mixon for Jacobs. I love this, but I'm a Mixon guy. So if you're not a Mixon guy and you've been burned by Mixon, I completely understand where you'd be like, dude, Kevin, what are you talking about here? But, DJ Chark, up and coming with Lawrence, like I mentioned earlier. Joe Mixon, grab him. I think he's the best value you can get right now, especially because I think he's finally going to get drafted at the right value. You draft him as a running back 1, you're going to get hurt. But if he's your running back 2, which I'm assuming Jacobs is, okay, you could maybe flip that. So now you get a top-end receiver with a young superstar quarterback, and you get Joe Mixon. Love it. Okay, next one, Nick Chubb. Man, I love this. I love that even if you had to give up a second and Jacobs for Nick Chubb, you go grab Nick Chubb right now. He is a dynasty running back 1 for me for the next 2 to 3 years. He's an amazing offense with Stefanski. The Cleveland Browns are trending upward. Go grab Nick Chubb, running back 1 for Jacobs. That's an incredible upgrade if you don't have to give up a first. I absolutely love that deal. Whoever got Nick Chubb, you're doing dynasty right. And the next one is an interesting one. Myles Sanders for Jacobs. These guys are going to be intertwined, right? Okay, him, Montgomery, Jacobs, and just that weird thing with that rookie drafts and all these guys. I still think Myles Sanders is a better value than Jacobs. I still believe in him. I believe in that offense. I think he could be a bell cow. PPR formats, he could be better. So for me, I'm smashing Myles Sanders. I'm taking that deal. If you can get him straight up, I think that's fair value trade. So for me, Jacobs is someone, if you can get some of these guys that are dynamic, especially that first deal, I'm doing that deal, and I'm loving what I'm getting from him for the value. Now, all of these trades are recent. These are recent in off-season dynasty. So when we're thinking of perspective, like, oh, I can't get that. This is stuff that people got the last couple of weeks. Jump on it now. Okay, take these guys. Now, my third running back to kind of move is Myles Gaskin. Myles had an okay year. I think people have actually had his value too high. This is based on a lot of things. A couple that I don't think he's the bell cow there in Miami. I think that they're going to find somebody. They've been rumored to get every damn running back that we've seen. Okay, and free agency, draft, they're going to get these running backs. So for me, Myles is a guy that I definitely want to get off of my roster if I can get the proper value, because I think his value is going to decrease, especially when free agency hits, the draft hits. No matter what, that value is going to go down. It's going down by the day. This is a guy that you need to move as fast as you can. So, last year we saw him, rushing stats, okay? 584 yards, 3 touchdowns, 41 receptions, 47 targets, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns in the receiving game. He finished as running back 29 in PPR formats, which is actually not bad considering he missed games with an injury. He didn't start the year off as a starter. Obviously, he came out of nowhere. All my Jordan Howard hate people out there. I'm with you too. I thought he was going to have a bigger role. But, he had a steady incline, and he did get hurt, and he hurt some fantasy managers. But for me, those aren't numbers that really pop off for me. I know he's young. I know he's a younger asset, but I think that if anything, he's going to be sharing duties and they're going to bring somebody in. So what value can you get for him right now? So let's take a look. So right now, and this is a deal that I just saw, and I cannot believe this deal, you can get Zeke Elliott for Gaskin and a Mostert. So if you compare Gaskin with another asset and try to go get Zeke, whose value is even lower, I think, I cannot believe that these guys are on the same level, then you got to do it. I think Zeke could have a top 10 year next year. Now, after that, obviously, if you're not a contender, don't do this. But even if you are, you can maybe flip him, right? I think Zeke's always going to be a valuable asset, no matter what. And I think that he will be a good asset next year. So you could flip these 2 assets for Zeke. Zeke has a pretty good year. Let's say your dynasty team's struggling a little bit. Then flip Zeke and get more value, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a one-off every time. Like, this is the guy I'm going to keep. The next deal here is 201 for Gaskin. And this is a super flex league. The 201 is extremely valuable. I would argue that's one of the most valuable picks that you can get. I would absolutely love doing this for Gaskin. You can maybe fall Kenneth Gainwell in your lap. You can maybe fall Rondale Moore, Bateman sometimes, Terrace Marshall. You could get a lot of guys at this spot. Maybe Pitts falls out of the first round, depending if it's tight end premium or not. I think the 201 is a very, very good get for Gaskin. If you can get that, that's an absolute steal. The next one is Brandon Cooks in the 205 for Gaskin. Again, super flex. So when you're looking at the 205, you can still maybe get a running back in there. Maybe if Gainwell is the fall, that 4th running back, depending on where your draft's at. Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Sermon, some guys that maybe you like, maybe you don't. But Brandon Cooks is a good asset. I understand where he's at, and I understand kind of where, depending on if he gets moved or not. So you are taking a little bit of a risk here, but it's the pick for me. Everything that's kind of what can I get that value? Gaskin is that value for me. Go grab Gaskin. Go grab Cooks in 205 if you have Gaskin, right? I'm not going to actively try to get Gaskin with a pick. I wouldn't maybe hate this on either side for Brandon Cooks or Gaskin, but the 205, that really sways that for me. So go grab the 205 for Gaskin, okay, like I was trying to say. Now, this next guy, so the first three, Kamara, Jacobs, Gaskin, okay, this next guy is going to be hotly debated until we see it next year, but I'm getting rid of James Robinson. Okay, so James Robinson is a guy that I'm going to sell high on. And if I miss out, I miss out. I know there's a ton of people out there that absolutely love James Robinson. So I can't blame you if you want to keep money roster, especially depending on what you got him for. Last year, you had an amazing year, record-setting year for an undrafted free agent. When you're looking at this, you had 1,000 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, 49 receptions, 344 yards, 3 touchdowns. He finished as the number 4 ranked PPR back. Okay, and that's outstanding. Running back 1. Okay, you can't get this type of value anywhere else. The problem I have with James Robinson is that they're going to bring in a new offensive system. They're bringing in a new coaching staff. I think draft capital matters. Okay, I don't care what a lot of people say in terms of that. I think it does matter, and I think they could bring in somebody in the draft, maybe late round. And his talent, for me, may not fit the system. I absolutely love Lawrence. They're going to throw the ball more. I just worry about the volume. So maybe he won't finish as a running back 1, which I don't think he will. Maybe finish as a low-end running back 2 or 3. But if you could get something for him now that the value makes sense, I'm doing that. Okay, and it's all about value to me and what can you grab. So some trades that recently happened for him, James Robinson for the 104 and the 204. This is a super flex league. So again, I'm okay with that because you're essentially falling into one of the running backs in this class, which I think is actually better. If you can get Najee Harris for that spot, if you can get in there, maybe you need a quarterback in a super flex league. And in that 204, you can grab maybe a running back or a wide receiver. I love that. Okay. So if you can get this, I like that deal. James Robinson for Amari Cooper in the 110. Again, I am not an Amari Cooper guy, but I still think the 110 holds a lot of value in Superflex leagues. So you're looking for, hey, maybe Javonte Williams falls down. Maybe ETN, who's really been struggling with his value recently. And you can grab those guys. I'm actually okay with that. And Cooper is actually a pretty solid piece. It's just, as a Cowboys fan, I get a little muddled here, right? I'm looking into the future. Hey, what is going on with Cooper? But I still think he's a valuable asset next year, and you can get another rookie running back who's going to have higher draft capital. I'm okay with that. Some people will not be, but that's your opinion. This is why I'm trying to give some ideas for values out there. My next one is an absolute great deal. So you're going to get James Robinson and Chase Claypool for DeAndre Swift. Absolutely love it. This is where you're basically using that value of Robinson and Claypool. Hey, that value. Hey, they're really high right now for a guy that can be a bell cow running back 1 in an offense that's going to be looking to run, play action. Dan Campbell's there now. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. And Swift, I think, could be the most talented back of that class. I know my Jonathan Taylor guys are out there and all those guys, but where he's at and his value right now, I absolutely love flipping the values of Robinson and Claypool for DeAndre Swift, and you should too. If there's a deal like this out there to make and you get a pick in the 3rd round, which is whatever with those picks, they're lottery tickets, but man, that is great. I can't believe this person got that pick. So give me DeAndre Swift. Give me those guys that I think could be the bell cow. And that's why I think James Robinson is another guy. Hey, go grab him. And then finally, my last guy here, and this is just, I guess I'm an ageist, but this is also I'm going to sell high, okay? And for me, it's Dalvin Cook. I absolutely love Dalvin Cook. He absolutely had a great year. There's a lot of question marks about Dalvin. And I think it's always going to be the injury. Can he sustain a full season? I know he pretty much got close to last year. He absolutely is a monster. But this is just me trying to sell high. I always try to sell high on my running backs, okay? And so when we look at what he did last year, hey, 1,500 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns, targets, receptions, receiving yards, touchdown. Get it. He finished number 2 right behind Kamara in PPR formats, 331 points. 24 average. He was absolutely dominant. But I'm getting rid of Dalvin because I am worried about Dalvin. And I understand that other people might not be, but that's a guy that I'm trying to sell right now. And this is what you could get for him because, hey, his value is high, okay? Dalvin Cook traded for DK Metcalf. Give me the bell cow wide receiver, okay? Give me that, okay? DK Metcalf all day, every day. That's the guy that I want. I understand kind of the concerns, and I get that, but long-term Dynasty – I don't hate that deal. I actually like it for both sides, to be honest, depending on where you're at, depending on where you're rebuilding. Dalvin Cook for CeeDee Lamb, a 2022 first, and a 105. Absolutely crushed that deal. Love CD. You know my opinions of him. 105. I've talked about that pick. And the 2022 first. Who knows where that could be? absolutely give me those assets and I'll try to rebuild using that way. Maybe I can get a Breece Hall from Iowa State. Maybe I can get Isaiah Spiller. Maybe I can get anybody in that draft class next year and flip that again, but you're still rebuilding through youth, right? And this next one's an interesting one. Dalvin Cook for Austin Eckler. So in PPR formats, he could be a top 5. I see a lot of love for Austin Eckler right now. Robert Tonyan, whatever you think about him, he's more of a throw-in to me. And in the 108, so again, you're essentially getting a running back that could maybe be in that running back 1 category. So it's not a fall or drop off from Cook. You get Tonyan in a tight end barren wasteland right now. It's just tight end. So maybe a low end tight end 2, tight end 1, maybe just depending on where he's at. And in the 108, man, I love that deal because you're just collecting assets at this point. And I don't think the drop off between Cook and Eckler will, if Eckler can stay healthy, will be that massive. I know I understand with the offense and all that, but in PPR formats, I absolutely love Eckler, the targets that he gets. So again, if you're in standard half PPR, that can change. But the 108 Eckler, Tonyan, absolutely love those guys. Okay. So when we're looking at dynasty running backs, those are some guys that I'm definitely going to be shopping. Not necessarily have to get rid of them, but guys like Gaskin, I'm going to try everything I can at James Robinson. Those guys are my big dynasty sells. Kamara and Cook are all based on, hey, can you get rid of them? And what is the highest point? Now, don't take a discount on those guys. Go get some really good assets and go find them. And Jacobs is one of those middle guys where I'm actually okay getting rid of him as long as I get guys like Joe Mixon. And added something to it. Always try to get those little things. Try to get those thirds. Try to get those super flex seconds. And always, I would tell you this, if you are getting rid of those guys and you trust your league, 2023 first are absolutely most valuable right now. That class is loaded. I know you hear this all the time, but I absolutely love the 23 class as long as those all come out. There could be realistically 4 to 5 running back 1s in that class. That is the class I'm going to go grab, and that is kind of what I'm doing with my Dynasty Sells for running back edition. So I appreciate you tuning in really quick. I hope you like the graphics. I hope you like the trade deals. Let me know who you would be selling. Would you sell these guys? And if you disagree, absolutely love it, okay? Disagree with me, and we'll talk about it. So give us a like, subscribe, let us know what we can do better, and I appreciate you chiming in on the Dynasty Sells running back edition.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to Hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.